Which legendary Nintendo handheld console do you like the most? Well, today we're going to find out as we pit three of our favorites against each other to see which one truly comes out on top.
Buy, rent, or sell. The ultimate showdown where we pit the consoles against each other and we see which we rank up top. Think of it like date, marry, kill, but with consoles, so buy, rent, sell, as the name implies. And in today's episode, we've got the Game Boy line of systems, including the Game Boy, Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance, the DS line of systems, which includes the Nintendo DS and 3DS, and lastly, the Nintendo Switch, the current gen champion, and maybe the champion in people's hearts. We don't know. We'll find out right now. But we're going to pass it off over to Sam.
Okay, so we're going to start the clock. We're going to give people 3 minutes. I'm starting my clock now. I'll keep tabs for all of you guys. I thought about this over the week and I couldn't decide. Right now, I've been playing the most Nintendo 3DS, and the Nintendo 3DS falls into the Nintendo 3DS and DS, right, Leo? Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So I definitely would not kill that one. So I think I'm going to have to break Leo's heart because I know what he's going to choose, and I'm going to sell the Game Boy Advance, which hurts me as well because I played Pokemon probably the most, Pokemon Blue, Silver, the most out of probably any other game in existence on handhelds. And I'm going to have to sell that because right now I'm playing the 3DS the most as an adult. And the Nintendo Switch just has Skyrim, so I cannot sell that just because of Skyrim. So I mean, I had 3 minutes, but it looks like 2 minutes and 2 seconds are left, so I'm gonna end it there. And those are my reasonings why.
I thought this would have gone on way longer because when we try to bring up this topic just to lift the curtain up for anyone listening or watching, we were like, all right, save it. You got a good idea, but just save it for when we actually push record.
I think I do still have a decent amount that I could say.
I just thought about it for a long time, and I just wanted to condense it as fast as I can. So those are my reasons. I am killing the GBA, or I am selling the GBA. I'm buying the 3DS, and I'm renting the Nintendo Switch.
All right, that's fair. That's fair.
It's hard.
I mean,
it wasn't easy.
Who wants to go next then?
Pick your favorite queen. 3 queens, man.
Yeah, dude.
So I have to pick between those three, or
the lines. So the Game Boy line, the DS line, and the Switch line, and you have to choose which of those is the one that you would buy, the one that you would rent, and the one that you would sell. Date, marry, kill.
Yeah, it includes backwards compatibility, so it includes the whole catalog. Minus the Switch doesn't, but there's also like Switch has remasters and stuff, so those count too.
I mean, the Switch has online for Game Boy Advance.
Well, if you have to be,
we're not considering
internet,
that.
I don't think
that's
it
a little
counts.
too idea.
Like if you have to be connected to the internet, I think that's out of the range of being able to play it because once you're off the grid, you're not going on your virtual console.
We're talking dedicated ports to a system, if that's what you're thinking.
Okay.
And actual backwards compatibility, not just emulating it through the online servers.
So with that, my answer stays the same.
Yeah.
Okay, who's going to be up next? I'm going to pass it on to Leo.
Okay, so
3 minutes starting now.
Sam brought up a pretty good point about this, and that's that even though there's a lot of nostalgia towards the Game Boy line of systems, specifically in my case, the Game Boy Advance, you would think that I'd be going there. Problem is that I'm weighing it considering the Game Boy and Game Boy Color too. And if I'm being honest, there's like 1 or 2 titles on the original Game Boy that I have interest in, and only a couple more on the Game Boy Color with. It's the Game Boy Advance that really holds it up for me. And then even then, there's a huge issue that I have the Game Boy Advance as much as I love it. And that's that a lot of its games are remastered from the SNES or remade from the NES. And a lot of its best games, like Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga or something like that, are, I wouldn't say few and far between, but it seemed like this was a console where they're like, hey, let's take previous gen systems and bring them down to a portable level. And as much as I love the system, though, I have to go, how much of its original content do I love? So as much as I love the Game Boy line of systems, I'm going to have to put it in the sell category.
Ooh.
Now, I know, shocking.
That was not on my bingo card, dude.
Yeah, I thought you were going to buy it.
Now, for the rent category, I'm going to go with the Nintendo Switch. Now, reason why is it's still ongoing. With the Switch line of systems, when we see about an eventual Switch 2, hypothetically speaking, it might include more compatibility towards these games. But right now, we're talking about a system that's ongoing. It's still in our memories fresh. It's not in retrospective. We're not able to look at it in the rearview mirror and just kind of go, okay, that's what was released, and that's what I'm going to go with. And that's one of those things where, because I'm considering all this, I have to go, okay, I don't want to fall into recency bias, and I just got to kind of put it in a level where I'm like, okay, it's in the perfect in between right now, because it's still ongoing, but it might have more in the future. And when we see it fully in the past, the rankings might change, but that's where it's at right now. Now, lastly, DS, 3DS line. I was actually expecting this to be my sell, but when I started thinking about it, it was my buy, because
Oh,
I look at their line and
Who is this, Sam?
I know. I'm
crazy.
looking at their lineup of games, and it's
good,
like
dude.
banger after banger after
The
banger.
consistency,
Yeah.
dude.
And not only that, but for the longest time, I was the type of person that would crap on the dual screen gimmick, because I was like, it's unnecessary. And the more I grow up and the more I look at it, I do think it's a fun novelty when it's used correctly. And a lot of games do use it correctly. It's mostly those early titles that just kind of treat it as a gimmick. But in later titles, you kind of actually see like there's creativity and innovation there. And with the 3D especially, like it's a gimmick that didn't always land, but when it does, it really does. And the quality of games is just bolstered by that fact. And for that, I am putting it in the buy category.
Oof.
Now I'm going to pass it
Excellent.
over
And
to.
just with that was 3 minutes perfectly. Actually,
Oh,
I was about to
there
stop
we
you
go.
there.
I'll
We're gonna
pass
pass
it
it
over
to now.
to Isaac.
Okay,
Okay. Run my clock, boys.
it
So
started.
I'm gonna start backwards. I'm actually just gonna straight up buy the Nintendo Switch. Now, I
Oof.
wouldn't even have said that I liked the Nintendo Switch or even loved it at launch. It came so bare bones with this whole concept of you get a console and you say I could take this with me and I could play it on my TV. But the Switch doesn't even feel or play like a portable console. It feels like an at-home console that's weaker than other home consoles. That's kind of a burden to actually take with you on the road and play with other people. It has nowhere near the form factor or the accessibility of a DS, or you can't like throw it in your pocket without worrying that it'll break or backpack, right? However, all that being said, the library, right? I love a lot of RPGs and I love a lot of niche games. I'm not going to get big AAA home console games on the other two. I'll get some ports that are downsized. And even if these aren't the most optimal way to play certain games, I already know that right now I'm playing a lot of Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance right now. And I could play that all day, all night, and it's on my Switch. And there's other like remasters of, hidden gem RPGs and legendary RPGs, like some of the Final Fantasy series, the Trails of series. You got some of the Mana games coming out, and I can't do that on the other two. So I love it just because I'm an RPG head, and it lets me play my modern games faster. Transition, I would say the next one I would go GBA, mostly because of Retro Pokemon. Retro Pokemon was one of my earlier RPG experiences. There's some of the Final Fantasy games that were some of my earlier Final Fantasy games I played. You got Metroid Fusion, which is insane. One of the best video games I've ever played. I think it's as good as Super. And then I'm going to throw in the trash the DS. I love the DS line. I love the 3DS line. I don't love it as much. And I don't love it anywhere near enough to say I'd rather play any DS or 3DS game than one of the old school Pokemon, Metroid Fusion, or any of the modern Switch RPGs that I have. Again, my choice ended up coming down to just the fact that this is a still growing and learning system. We're still learning what it is that makes this system so accessible to so many people. And you guys brought it up, but with the advent of a Switch 2, this thing can only get better, right? This thing can only get better. What if my hope and my dream for a Switch 2 is to just have it be permadocked and you have a portable mode that you just take with you that's more akin to like the Switch Lite. That way you feel like you have a portable console again, because that's what I do miss about the GBA and DS is they felt portable.
Agreed.
But yeah,
Definitely.
that's mine. Switch, GBA, DS.
Boom, right on time. 3 minutes are up.
Right.
I will say, I don't want to take up your time while saying this, but I find it interesting how you said you wanted to throw away the 3DS in the trash, but there's so many Shin Megami Tensei games on there. And you're just like, we're harping about how you love Shin Megami Tensei.
My favorite one is on PS2 though, and that one got ported to Switch. And
On top
of that-
five just recently has been like climbing on like some of my top favorite games. But I don't want to take any more time. They also put you know, a lot of the Persona stuff on there. But you're right.
I think that another thing too.
I should have thought about that.
I think that another thing too is that oftentimes our feelings kind of get in the way of the, I wouldn't say the objective facts, but a lot of the other matters that happen. Like, I love the GBA, but it's also a system that is riddled to the brim with a crappy licensed tie-in games, and
A lot of
that's
them.
also something that kind of weighed it down for me. But anyways, Isaac, you're gonna pass it on to someone else.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and send this on over to Nick because I feel like he's chomping at the bit to talk about some Nintendo right now.
All right, Nick, time started.
So this was a hard one, dude. Like literally, as you guys are talking about it, like I already know which one I'm gonna buy.
Hey,
as
real
you guys,
talk. How many of you guys changed your answers a couple times before leading up to today?
Oh no,
I
no,
literally like going back and forth between my other two. Like as you guys are talking about it right now, because it's hard, dude. Something that I thought Isaac talked about that was interesting is like the hardware itself. I'm gonna straight up say that I'm gonna buy the Switch just because I think we're gonna look back on the Switch as one of probably for sure one of the most fondly remembered Nintendo consoles. It has a lot going for it, in my opinion. But talking about the hardware, you know, like Isaac mentioned, it's not a traditional handheld where you could flip it open and put it in your pocket like the GBA SP or the DS. And that was those, you know, back when we were kids, being able to do that was like phenomenal. You know, it's a little bit more cumbersome to carry the Switch around, and the battery life is like 3 hours max. But nonetheless, it's an excellent console. I was looking at some of the games just to refresh my memory, and obviously the Zeldas are phenomenal. You got a whole bunch of good Mario games, Mario Odyssey, Mario Wonder. You got Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which is technically it's a Wii U game, but the DLC that they had, it makes it feel like almost a whole new game. You got, of course, I'm going to say Sonic Mania because I think it's objectively the best Sonic game ever made.
Oh yeah, so good.
I think you know, Smash Ultimate.
Oh yeah.
I don't play it as much as I used to, but I put like 1,100 hours on that game. Like
Oof.
you got like the GameCube remakes. You got like Metroid Prime, and then you got Mario the Thousand Year Door, which is one of my favorite GameCube games. So definitely buying the Switch. This one I was going back and forth on. I think I'm gonna say that I'm gonna rent the 3DS just because I think it has more consistency than the GBA. I think the GBA is a phenomenal system, in my opinion. I think the GBA has the heavier hitters hit harder than the 3DS ones, in my opinion. Like going to the GBA, like Pokemon Emerald, all the Pokemon games, Ruby, and if we're including Game Boy Color, obviously Silver, Gold, etc. But then with the GBA as well, you know, I was a big fan of the Sonic Advance series, and I absolutely love those. As Leo mentioned, that was the era on handhelds and on consoles where licensed games were plentiful, and sometimes you got some really good ones. Like I know Leo and I have talked about like Lilo and Stitch being a really good game. I know Leo's, like I know Leo's also mentioned The Sims, which isn't a licensed game, but there's some hidden gems in there. But the 3DS just has so many good games. Like it has, nobody really talks about this one, but Mario Kart 7 has Smash Bros, which was a big deal because it came out on the 3DS before, you know, coming out on the Wii U.
I forget about that.
It has Link Between Worlds, which honestly is an amazing game. Like I know it's technically kind of a remake, but it's so good. And then you get the Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask remakes. You get Mario 3D Land, and yeah, that console is great. And you got the Donkey Kong. They had a port of Country Returns on that, which for a long time up until the upcoming Switch re-release was the best way to play the first Donkey Kong Country Returns. But the GBA has still got some heavy hitters. You know, the Pokemon games, the Mario Superstar Saga, the Dragon Ball Z Goku, Legacy of Goku games are phenomenal. I know that there's some Fire Emblem games on there, I believe, right? I haven't played those myself. You know, you got Advance Wars, so it's got a good, healthy mix of genres as well. So those are the ones I'm going with. Love to hear what Chito has to say about it.
You know, the 3DS I want to mention also had Netflix and YouTube at
Hey,
its
hey,
time.
can I say
That's
real
crazy.
quick? I
Let me
changed
hear
my
it.
mind. I'm renting the DS. Nick just convinced me. Nick, oh,
Yeah.
I changed my mind. I'm
Alright,
renting the
dude.
DS. Sam and Nick convinced me. I didn't take into account all the SMT stuff, and my favorite gens of Pokemon are technically on the DS with black and white. So,
That
and
counts
Heart Gold
those
and Soul
too.
Silver. So yeah, I change it. Game Boy's in the trash, bro.
Dude, Game Boy's in the sell bin for all
It's
four of us so
sad,
Hey,
far.
the Game
unfortunately.
Boys
Oh
are
my
dumping the
goodness.
Game Boys, bro.
We're the
Game
DS
Boys
ones
over
now.
here.
It's just
Exactly.
hard, man. It's
It's
hard no matter which way you slice it.
Yep.
The DS dudes.
Right now
The
we got
Switch
Chito.
swag boys.
Yeah, we got Chito running up on 3 minutes. Start now, brother.
All right, so for me, this wasn't that difficult because
Ooh.
although I did have a Game Boy Color as a kid, I didn't
Mm.
really have that many games for it. So I only had like 3 to 4 games. So yeah, the Game Boy is gonna go in the trash for me. But it still has good games, like all the Pokemon games. Like that's where you started. That's where I started off with Pokemon, with the original Game Boy Pokemon. That's what got me into all the Pokemon stuff. So yeah, but like I said, right now I even own 2 Switches right now. I have the original Switch and the OLED, and I was thinking of buying another one too. But yeah, so I'll definitely be buying the Switch. And it's because all the port games, like there's a bunch of games that I didn't get to play because I didn't own like a Super Nintendo that I can play, like the Mario RPG. Like I can play on the Switch because I didn't get to play it back then. And I don't want to buy it now because it's like super expensive,
Yeah.
even though I have it. But but yeah, so I would definitely buy the Switch, and I'm renting the DS. And one thing about the DS that you guys didn't bring up that was like heck of fun when we were kids is the Picto Chat.
Oh.
I was actually waiting for someone to bring that up too.
Picto Chat was like so fun. We're in like the bus, everyone just sending each other messages and everything. And another thing with the Game Boy, you couldn't really play online or multiplayer. You had to have the link cable. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the DS, there's more, like multiplayer chances. Even if you don't own the game, like on the Mario
Like
Kart
Mario
one,
Kart,
as
yeah.
long as one person had it, other people could play.
Oh yeah.
And the Switch, like everything's online. They can play like Fortnite and everything. So yeah, I would definitely buy the Switch, rent the DS, and Game Boy's got to go in the trash, man.
Dang.
Well, it looks like we're doing everything to not live up to our channel's name.
Yeah.
think
Well, we're
if
just the
I'm
Game
correct-
Boys, right?
Yeah. I mean,
4
we
of
are a
us
bunch
dumped
of
Game Boy,
boys.
right? 4 of us dumped it. Sam, I think
I
dumped
dumped
DS.
it. I dumped it.
Oh, you dumped it, right?
So
I
all
think
the
all
Game
of it.
Unanimous.
We all
Clean
dumped the
sweep.
Game Boy. And
The
we're,
thing
all,
is-
we're the Game Boys.
The thing is too,
Yeah.
we all did say like it's got great games. It's just I think all of us
Bro.
also kind of said it is weighed down by the Game Boy and Game Boy Color line. It's the Game Boy Advance stuff that's holding it up.
The
Yeah.
downfall of the Game Boy starts now, guys.
Game Boys are canceled.
Look, I'm gonna level with you. You like Sam, right? We all like Sam around here. Around these parts, Sam's our guy. Thing is, that guy, he busts us with these edits. And you don't watch, you don't get to eat. You don't get to eat, you die. So what do you gotta do, Isaac?
What are you doing? Push the button, it's right there, and then also click on the one with the thumbs up. Actually, even if you push the thumbs down, as long as you subscribe, I don't care.
Or else, Sam gets it.
I need to eat, guys.